I like being on YouTube. Strange. I was like, what am I hearing? I'm hearing the air.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the air conditioner to turn off.
The air.
Buckle up.
Are we getting a lot of listeners / viewers on YouTube?
YouTube.
I don't know yet compared to the others,
Yagwai.
but we should now be live.
Hi, YouTubers and chat roomers.
And let's send out the tweet really quickly.
Do we still have Mixlers?
Yeah.
And Mixlers.
Taste the rainbow.
Sound.
Challenge everything.
Buckle up.
Ew.
It was a bubble.
Shut the door to the bathroom.
You're
Sorry.
silly.
I
Okay.
know it.
Here we go.
Thanks, Mulan.
And where's my tab? There it is.
Oh gosh, look at this freeze frame where I paused.
What? Oh,
My
wow.
face.
It's like you have a beard.
And it felt weird.
All right.
Like an Amish beard.
Oh, I need to get that off the screen.
It's like my face is weird. See? I'm like,
That's what you're doing.
thanks for that.
And
I was.
let's start.
Okay.
Here we go. 3, 2. You're listening to Once Upon a Time podcast, episode 105. Actually, I want to put in there the title of what this is. Second season disc review.
Special features.
Yeah. Second season special features review.
Second season DVD box set.
Well, it's also
Special
Blu-ray box
features. That's what I meant to say.
set. DVD/Blu-ray
I
box
meant
set.
to say Blu-ray.
I just
'cause-
call it the set or the discs or try. It's annoying. I can no longer say the DVDs. Yeah. Anyway, let's do this again.
Okay.
Or I'll do this again.
Do it.
Since that was my fault.
Just do it.
You're listening to Once Upon a Time podcast, episode 105, second season special features review. Welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast about ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin.
And I'm Jenny.
We're happy to have you listening with us, and we're excited. Jeremy, check your countdown, because the Once Upon a Time season premiere is coming up very soon. At the time of this recording,
38 days, 23 hours, 20 minutes. Actually, that was like on the zero. No seconds.
wow.
20 minutes.
So by the time you listen to this, here's the good news. By the time you're listening to this, it's even sooner. It's coming up. Once Upon a Time, again, in case you aren't sure, Once Upon a Time returns on Sunday, September 29th, and Once Upon a Time in Wonderland starts on Thursday, October 10th, and that's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, or 8/7 Central.
I'm going to make a countdown for that. And I'll
On
get
both
back
of those
to you.
days. And we'll be podcasting more about that when it comes around. But let's talk about the second season complete set. We received the Blu-ray disc set from ABC to review, and thank you so much, ABC, for sending that to us. And we got an unboxing video that I did on YouTube, and it's also on the website, in the podcast feed, and all of that. And if you want to check it out and just see what's in the box and watch it open, which is just always fun to do, but
Open.
Watch it be opened. It doesn't do it on its own. Just FYI.
you can go to oncepodcast.com/unboxing2, and then you can watch that video. If you want to watch the first unboxing, I think it's oncepodcast.com/unboxing. And if you want the sword letter opener, then you go to oncepodcast.com/letter opener, because so many people want that sword letter opener. But anyway, let's talk about some of the stuff that's on the discs. The DVDs and Blu-rays are just barely different in content. The Blu-rays have just a couple extra features on them, and that is it has the commentary for The Miller's Daughter. So that's the 6th episode. There are 5 episodes on the DVDs that have audio commentary. So on the Blu-rays, there are 6 episodes that have the audio commentary, and that 6th one is The Miller's Daughter. That's exclusive to the Blu-ray edition. The other feature that is exclusive to the Blu-ray edition is A Fractured Family, which is a fun explanation of the whole family tree with Once Upon a Time.
It's so complicated.
And it was narrated by Sarah Hyland of ABC's Modern Family. And yeah, they really play this up because some of the characters tried to explain some of the family relationships. I mean, the actors did. Like Jenny Goodwin was in there. Jared Gilmore was in there. And several other cast members were trying to explain the whole family tree. And I love this clip from the special feature that I think helped sum it up and try to explain it in 60 seconds as it relates to Henry.
Buckle up. Big finish. Let's untangle Henry's family tree. Henry's parents are Neil and Emma. The evil queen is both Henry's adoptive mother and his step-great-grandmother. His grandparents are Snow White, Prince Charming, Rumpelstiltskin, Mila, and because Mila married Captain Hook, Hook is his step-grandfather too. Cora is Henry's adoptive grandmother, as well as his step-great-great-grandmother. And King George is his great-uncle's adoptive father, as well as his pretend great-grandfather via various acts of subterfuge. James is either Henry's great-uncle or his grandfather, depending on which James you're talking about. And Charming and Abigail were curse-married for a spell, so she probably fits in there somewhere too. I am amazing. To sum up, young Henry's got 3 parents, 2 biological, 1 adoptive. Somewhere between 6 and 8 grandparents, depending on how you count. A great-uncle, a step-great-grandparent, a step-great-great-grandparent, 3 blood feuds, and claim to the thrones of at least 4 kingdoms. On your favorite procedural, they call that motive. Have fun at Thanksgiving dinner.
So it was a great little feature. A big thing that I took away from that is at the end, as they pointed out, Henry is heir to 4 kingdoms.
Yeah, whatever. I can't believe that.
I'd never thought about that.
Yeah.
That he's bringing balance to the force, or just tying all of these kingdoms together.
See, that's the thing. They made it really just kind of like it was for fun. But when they show the family tree and there's Henry and then there's practically the whole cast is a branch of his family tree, he's more important than maybe we might have thought before.
Yeah. So I wonder if they've had that in mind all along, because we don't know quite what Kitsis and Horowitz discovered along the way that they were this certain plot that they wanted to follow, if it was just this whole Neverland aspect, or if they realized, hey, Henry is connected to everybody.
Pretty
Right.
much.
Maybe we should make him extra special. But 4 kingdoms, so that's King
let's
George.
figure this out.
That's King Leopold. And where do the others come in? Kind of Catherine Midas.
He wouldn't be the heir to that kingdom.
It was a curse partial
they
marriage.
say heir or claim to the throne.
Claim to the throne.
Yeah.
And then the 4th one somewhere in there. But you can see, we'll have a screenshot of this little family tree in the show notes at oncepodcast.com/105. So you can check that out and try and understand this little thing. But the video goes on a lot more and explains how different characters are related and how they tie in. So it's really helpful, especially, and gives some extra stuff that you didn't really, some people might not have actually thought about. Oh yeah, that person is kind of connected to that person. Like Abigail, I'd never really thought about Abigail as kind of being part of the family tree.
I kind of don't.
But in a sense, she sort of is. It was a temporary marriage.
It was a fake marriage that wasn't working.
Yeah, so not quite official, but
Yeah.
kind of like a side listen. It's absolutely crazy, but really cool.
It's a weak branch.
And that feature is exclusive on the Blu-ray, but it's very likely that it'll make its way onto YouTube, and probably when iTunes has the season pass for Once Upon a Time, then for the third season, they'll probably include this Blu-ray special feature or Blu-ray exclusive feature in your season pass. They did that for season 2. They included some of the Blu-ray special features from season 1 in the iTunes season pass for season 2.
That's cool.
It's almost as confusing to explain as Henry's Family Tree. It's just all tied together. Just assume that. But we had several other videos on the disc, and one of the things in general about the discs that disappointed me, no Easter eggs at all.
Well, the problem with Easter eggs is you have to hide them, but not too well.
Well, in this case, they couldn't hide them from me. The way that I check the DVDs and Blu-rays, they can't hide anything from me. I see all.
That you know
I'm
of.
the seer. Well, no, there was nothing else on the discs. No hidden features on any of the discs that I could find. There were a couple trailers, which, interestingly, trailers for 2 Disney movies coming out on Blu-ray, The Little Mermaid and Peter Pan.
That's funny.
But then there
Clever.
were these special features, deleted scenes, bloopers, and some of this other stuff that we'll talk about as we go on. So a little disappointing. No Easter eggs on this. There were Easter eggs on the first season discs.
Yeah, but yeah, they're just tiny little things that they might as well just put into a larger feature so people don't have to hunt around a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they could have given a little bit more behind the scenes stuff, or
Oh, I see
I mean,
what
many
you're saying.
different things that they could have done as little Easter eggs.
Just show the filming of a scene or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, exactly. That's what some of the season 1 stuff was. Well, there was a special feature about the dwarfs and a thing about August, and I think a behind the scenes of the fight scene with the baby.
With the baby? Well, there was a Emma and Tamara fight scene that we got to see, and
Yeah,
it was
that was-
funny
Yeah,
getting to see Emma jump away from the invisible portal.
yeah, that was in the next thing that we'll talk about, the section or the special called Girl Power, that was all about the strong women that are in Once Upon a Time and how they've really made them stand out. Very different from the classic fairy tale parts where it's always the damsel in distress. But here it's the strong women who can fight for themselves. And they show a lot of that. And they show the cool fight scene that Jenny just mentioned. They show a bunch of cool stuff. And they give it this comic book-like feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and they even looked into Mulan a little bit. It was funny, like, hearing her talk about all the layers of her costume. She wears a lot, just so you know.
And lots of weapons. She said something like, if I'm not carrying 2 swords or not doing this.
Basically, she's always carrying.
Yeah,
a lot of
and
stuff.
Lots of
wielding weapons and, yeah, a real warrior, really.
And she does a lot of her own fighting work, sounds like.
Yeah, they did say that she loves to just get in there and do it. And some of the stuff, like I think the fight scene between Emma and Tamara, it looked like maybe there was a Tamara double.
Yeah, there
was a double for both of them, but maybe not for every part of it.
Yeah, true. But some of what they showed behind the scenes stuff of Mulan.
Probably for the body slam.
Yeah, primarily.
My favorite.
It's so weird to see a fight scene from a different angle.
Yeah, it is.
And as Jeremy pointed out,
No sound effects.
No sound effects, and they weren't even touching each other. So it's just funny because it looks so different.
yeah. Well, it's amazing what you can do with just some camera angles and a few sound effects here and there.
Do they... I mean, I've never thought so, but do they speed the scenes up slightly? Because it always feels when you watch a behind the scenes like they're going kind of slow.
Yeah, that's normal in action sections to speed it up.
Okay.
They
I've
speed
never
it up
noticed.
and they like juggle the camera all around so it all looks very busy and
Yeah.
shaky and stuff.
And you can't notice that there's a 6-inch gap between.
Pretty much.
And when you hear that connection,
But it was really cool to see that. And cool that they focused on some of the story writing aspects of this. And you get to see several of the writers talk about Once Upon a Time throughout these features. You see, of course, Kitsis and Horowitz in there, but also Andrew Chamberlain and David H. Goodman and Jane Espenson and some of the production team.
I love what she said about Mary Margaret. She was like, there's just something about, the motion of drawing the bow that's just a hero move. And she was doing it while she was talking about it.
Yeah, and we learned that Ginny Goodwin grew up learning bow and arrow.
Yeah,
archery. Yeah, the more fancy name instead of bow and arrow. But before we move on, I want to give thanks to people who helped make this episode of Once Podcast possible. Christian Schmidt, Dina81, David Newland, Callie Foster, Lori Ann, DJ Firewolf, Chris Zeigler have all contributed to make this episode possible. And all of them, all but one of them, are subscribers. So they have signed up to automatically contribute every month to Once Podcast. And we really appreciate that because that helps cover the cost, which it is pretty expensive to run Once Podcast. But we really, really appreciate the support. So Kristen, Dina, David, Callie, Lori, DJ, and Chris, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And listeners, if you'd like to support either one episode of Once Podcast or maybe a bunch of episodes, you can go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor to make a one-time donation or an ongoing donation. And we'd be very, very grateful for that. And thank you to everyone who has recently and in the past as well. So let's talk about the deleted scenes. Whenever we see deleted scenes, I feel like we know why they deleted those scenes. Sometimes,
yeah, they were just kind of like, all right, that happened.
Yeah, it didn't really move the story along.
Or somebody said something strange, and you're just like, yeah. It's like, I guess if they don't catch something during filming, even if the scene's otherwise okay, if it just doesn't work, you kind of have to take the scene out.
Yeah.
Or I could see that maybe they cut things out because of how many questions it raises. Like, there was a scene that I thought was very good to see was of Dr. Archie Hopper walking down the sidewalk. And remember, this is season 2, so this is all after the curse has been broken. Archie Hopper walking down the sidewalk, and he sees inside of Mr. Gold's pawn shop, he sees Geppetto's puppet parents in there, and he just stops, and you can see kind of some grief on his face, almost like he had forgotten about that. And that was cool. That was nice to see. It would have been nice to see that in an episode, but I could understand why they might not have included it because it might have raised too many questions that they didn't have time to answer. Well,
and beyond that, I was just thinking, nice, Gold, real nice. Just put him in the front window now that everybody remembers. Good job. I just don't see that happening. So maybe there was that too.
Yeah.
The one I really liked was there was one on the Jolly Roger, and there was a little bit of foreshadowing about Neverland.
Yeah,
with Henry talking to Neil, and Neil's kind of like, basically, how do you know how to get to Neverland? Because he says the second star to the right bit. Of course, if Neil's been in our world for that long, you would think he'd have heard the story of Peter Pan at some point. But maybe he's been living under a lot of rocks and in a lot of beetles and things. But even if they cut it because they thought that foreshadowing was a little too strong and they wanted us to be more surprised, right at the end of that, Henry's just like, do you think your dad will die?
Yeah,
he said it almost like,
tactless.
And then we'll get cupcakes? So,
Henry.
Like, yeah, maybe that's a retake.
Yeah, that was a deleted scene from The Miller's Daughter. And the complete list, as far as I could tell, of deleted scenes was from We Are Both, The Doctor, In the Name of the Brother, Manhattan, Second Star to the Right, and Straight On Till Morning. Jenny, what was your favorite deleted scene? Or did you have a favorite of what we saw?
The one that sticks out to me is the one in the Darling house. Partly because I didn't really understand it.
Right.
Because I couldn't see what book she was reading, and I couldn't see if the story she was telling matched up with the book.
The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Because when she closed the book, you could see the title.
Yeah, but I didn't see it.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought maybe she was lying just so she would get in trouble and send up to her room so she could take Bae some food. Like, I couldn't tell if that's what she was doing or not. I wasn't sure.
Think about that.
And I think that stood out to both of us in different ways, and it's probably one of the big reasons they cut it is because she was just sitting there ignoring her father telling her to stop reading, and she was basically being kind of a brat.
Yeah.
which isn't really in keeping with her character.
No, it's
so
not. She's not rebellious.
yeah, so
She's
I guess there
gentle
goes
and
that
kind
scene.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
And stuff.
And
And
in our chat room
It's a
right
little
now,
rebellious.
Matthew Paul is reminding us that 40 minutes were cut from the episode Skin Deep.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
But
a
that was in
lot.
season 1. And I can understand why they filmed just way too much. And so many people want that season 1 footage from Skin Deep. But
It's a whole episode.
my favorite scene from the deleted scenes was in the hospital in the episode. It was, I believe it was In the Name of the Brother, when we got to see, this was just after The Outsider came, and we saw Hook come out of his hospital room holding a plate of Jell-O. It was
Blue
like,
Jell-O.
what is this?
Yeah.
I thought I was hallucinating.
It's food. Eat it.
It was so funny.
That's what Mary Margaret said.
And then he tries to make a pass at Ruby.
Pretty much.
I think the thing that was a little bit, and I can't remember, I was trying to place it in the whole timeline and how things were, because Snow is talking to Emma and she says, your father and I were talking or something like that. And I was like, my father? Oh, him.
David.
Yeah, it was like,
It was odd.
yeah, it was kind of odd.
She's never acted that way towards her parents.
So I'm wondering if that was the main, well, other than time, but maybe that was even the reason that it was gone. But it was still, Jell-O. And it made me question, seeing it through his eyes, why do we eat Jell-O?
Looks like a jellyfish, maybe. A blue
A
jellyfish.
Jell-O fish.
What is this? Yeah, 'cause Jell-O's in a lot of hospitals. It's funny.
But the deleted scenes, for the most part, I think made sense why they didn't include them. If they needed to cut things out for time. I've done that with our podcast before. I used to be really tight-wadded about sticking to a shorter podcast. Like, it couldn't be longer than so many minutes.
Yes.
And when I had to edit to get it under that, I'd start looking for those things that weren't really relevant, didn't move along the discussion, and trying to remove those things. But at some point, I realized, well, I don't have to stick to an absolute time limit. The one and only person who complained about the time limit was because they put our podcast episodes on CDs. So I split up an episode for them and sent it to them so they can put it on 2 CDs. That's the only person that's complained about the length. So, and that was for a very legitimate reason.
Yeah,
so
that's just logistical.
Yeah.
That's not,
but
I don't want that much content.
we're not under a time limit. Once Upon a Time is, unfortunately. So some of this stuff has to be cut, and some of it they just realized, we don't really need this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it diverts from the story or
They didn't want to cut something more important.
Yeah. And there was a scene even from the episode We Are Both that shows, I think, a little bit of tension between Henry and David when David basically says, no, you can't come along with me. You're not the expert in this case. It almost hinted at a little bit of tension, but I'm glad they cut that out, because then since they cut that out, most of what we see between Henry and David is that Henry just absolutely loves David and calls him Gramps and all of this stuff. And so I think that was good that they cut that out and much of this other stuff. Anything else that stood out to you guys about the deleted scenes?
Not that I could think of.
We got a whole special feature on Hook. Sincerely Hook is the name of this section, and it has Colin O'Donoghue in it talking about playing the character Hook and some of the things, some of the costume stuff that he really enjoyed and just getting into character and such. And what stood out to me was that he said he really didn't expect people to be happy to call themselves hookers.
yeah. One wouldn't expect that. People, I'm talking to all of you who call yourselves that. Find a new name. I don't expect you to be happy about being called that.
Hooky was, I think, better.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can skip school and think about Hook and stuff. The thing that stood out to me from that was that I had never realized that he, in a sense, has 2 identities, like a lot of the people that were affected directly by the curse. He has Killian, which is who he is, but after he lost his hand and after he ended up on his vendetta, he changed when he started being called Hook. He kind of talked about the difference between his personality before he was known as Hook and after. So, you know, it's not a memory or a curse sort of thing, but he does kind of have 2 identities.
Yeah, that's true. Some of that did carry over. The whole charmingness of him carried over. But yeah, he described it as, I think the second one was more calculating and trying just so focused on revenge. I mean, the guy spent probably 300 years of his life, depending on how time works in Neverland,
Right.
wanting and planning revenge.
True.
I thought it was interesting how Connor said that he's very much different as a person to his character, but the one thing that translates into his character is the eyebrow raise that he often does.
Yeah, and when they show it, certain scenes from like Tallahassee and
He
such, it's
does
like,
do that a lot.
Yeah. I hadn't noticed that,
I hadn't either.
but it was cool that he brings some of it. And he did say that he wanted to bring some of his personality. His first introduction to Hook was the Peter Pan Disney movie. And so he wanted to take a different approach to Hook, and so he brought some of his own personality into it as well.
Yeah, and he brought in some of the older stories of Hook into it.
Speaking of him, there was something that I forgot to bring up during the Fractured Family Tree. They mentioned that he married Mila. Did we know that?
I don't think we did. I think they just sort of ran away together, and that's all we knew.
That might have been a kind of family-friendly way of putting it. But then again, to say married implies some kind of ceremony, not just she ran off with him.
Well, when we did see them together, they did seem like kind of devoted to each other.
Yeah.
True.
In a way.
So maybe
that was a detail that was left out.
Odd little thing to put in there. But then how else? I mean, yeah, you could just say she ran off with him, but then he doesn't even really fit in the family tree if you just say that she ran off with him.
Right. But it makes his relationship to Neil a bit more obvious than just, oh, I found him once.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually that reminds me of one of the other scenes that was cut from the finale and Straight On Till Morning that showed Hook talking with Greg and Tamara.
Right.
And where Tamara basically did say, I killed Neil. And you can see Hook's countenance just drop because he feels some slight fatherliness to Bay or Neil. And we did hear that in the episode when Emma told him that Neil was killed. But when Tamara did it, I think his reaction to that was much bigger.
Yeah.
And then he still tried to pretend he didn't care. He said he didn't care.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing that Connor said was that he channels missing his real family into playing Hook. Like he sort of allows that to show up in his character, but it kind of translates differently. Like it means something different on the screen.
Yeah. I think Colin does a great job at his accent since he's actually Irish. He said he was born in Ireland. And when he talks in the video, he has a definite Irish accent. But that doesn't really come out in Once Upon a Time. So, of course, we can imitate British accents. And
Sorry, I've been getting it wrong this whole time. I've been saying Connor. It's Colin.
That's okay.
Thanks for correcting me.
And then we had this segment, Good Morning Storybook, which, honestly, I was a little bit disappointed with. It was funny. It was really quirky. But I think the funniest stuff from Good Morning Storybook was in the YouTube preview that ABC released.
Because they spent most of the time basically trying to explain the part of the story they don't want to tell in the show about Grumpy and Nova. Which basically is, no, they really haven't seen each other. And she's still, I guess, committed to being a fairy, even though she's kind of not right now.
Yeah.
And so he's just going to go back to being grumpy. And...
Well, she did make reference in her little thing about a spell that she messed up recently.
She's
so she is
still
giving out
clumsy.
spells. Yeah, and still clumsy, of course. I was trying to keep track of how many different fairy tales and what fairy tales they referenced, and some of them were kind of hidden in here and there, but there was stuff like the boy who cried wolf, the guy named
Not
Boyd.
this time.
Yeah. There was Bambi, Humpty Dumpty, Heart Archer.
I don't know who that
is. Quite get that one.
Maybe...
Duh.
Is it Entangled?
Heart Archer is the little baby, the naked baby that runs around with the bow and arrow.
Really him?
What's the
Cupid?
Cupid, yes.
Oh.
Heart Archer.
Oh.
Now that makes sense to me. Okay. And then also there was Goldie Loxley.
She was funny.
She was. I like how she said cottage.
Jack Plum, Jack and the Jill, the Three Little Piggies, the Little Mermaid,
Jack and the Jill.
Romeo and Juliet. Belle
Jack and Jill.
Belle referenced several books too, which she'd only half read. Some of the modern stories.
Yeah, she was kind of spoiled.
And there were several other fairy tales that were mentioned, either just names or little nods to them here or there, and different random stuff, Big Bad Wolf, and all of this stuff being mentioned. So it was really funny to see them squeeze all of these in. And I was starting to think, is this a list of basically fairy tales they're not going to cover? And so this is how they're getting these mentions in, until they mentioned one fairy tale, and I won't mention it here because it's a spoiler, but they did mention one fairy tale within this whole mix that they are going to cover.
Oh.
So at least that we know of, that they are definitely going to cover.
Oh.
So that kind of killed my theory about this being a list of fairy tales they basically won't cover. But the great commercials in this and segments were fun.
Yeah, the local commercial thing.
Yeah, and they deliberately made this feel very local.
Yeah.
Just look at those sausages. Sodas for the kiddies.
Shouldn't even say it with that much personality.
And sometimes we have avocados. Ask if we have avocados. Yeah. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the Wolf Watch was great because I remember our friend Jeff Roney early on in his podcast over at Once Upon a Time podcast.com had a Ruby watch for whenever Ruby would show up. He was just being silly about something there. But it reminded me of that, so maybe he'll enjoy that a little bit.
Yeah, that's
the whole thing.
Definitely dying.
We don't know anything yet, but we're reporting.
Oh, that sounds like dying. What was it?
That's definitely dying.
Yeah, so it was fun. And I think it's something that will be even funnier the second time we watch it. The problem we had is we watched the bloopers before this. I tried to save the bloopers for last.
That's true.
And the
bloopers were great.
Were hilarious. Let's talk about the bloopers now.
I wish I could watch again right now. They were that good.
Bloopers are always fun. And they showed a bunch of sections of different scenes.
Of bloopers.
Yeah. And it was really cool to see how the characters just have fun. Mm-hmm. The actors have fun with some of these things.
Yes.
What was your favorite blooper, Jeremy, Jenny?
My favorite was when Regina she broke the shackles and started fake punching the guards.
Could have stayed in character for a second.
Yeah.
That's always my favorite.
And they both just played along. It was great. I loved it. It's my favorite.
Or Neil, whose real name Michael
Raymond James.
Yes, thank you. He was like, has anybody seen my dignity?
I think seeing I don't know which one is my favorite. Several of them were so great, but seeing Regina just all like getting an attitude and shaking her shoulders that
one was like real life bad lip reading. It came out like someone did bad lip reading, but it was her.
Yeah, they had some other bloopers from throughout the season and some great stuff. Even seeing Barbara Hershey, who's been so serious through both seasons, whenever we saw her, just so serious, this really bad lady. There's one little clip in the bloopers where she's just got this ridiculous face on.
Yeah, she's making faces.
Yeah, so great. A lot of fun. You got to check them out. And they are already on YouTube, not necessarily sanctioned by ABC, but you can check them out. But definitely get the Blu-ray or the DVD, and I don't think you'll regret it. If you can, get the Blu-ray because it has these extra features, the audio commentary to The Miller's Daughter, and that whole section on a fractured family tree, about the family tree of everybody, basically. But also on the discs, audio commentary, there are 6 episodes on the Blu-ray that have audio commentary and 5 on the DVD. So those episodes that have audio commentary are the pilot or the premiere of season 2, which is Broken. That's Josh Dallas and Jenny Goodwin. are doing that together. In the 9th episode, Queen of Hearts, it was Kitsis and Horowitz with Lana Parrilla, the evil queen. In the commentary for Manhattan, that was Kitsis and Horowitz with Robert Carlyle. With the episode The Miller's Daughter, that's the Blu-ray exclusive, it's Jane Espenson. And right off at the very beginning, and I haven't watched all of these yet with their audio commentary, but at the beginning, Jane Espenson refers to the show and describing something, and she says, "Isn't our show beautiful?" There's also episode 17, Welcome to Storybrooke, and it has Ian Goldberg and Andrew Chambliss. How's that pronounced, Jeremy? You know that better.
I don't know.
Okay. That were co-writers for this episode and with several episodes of Once Upon a Time. And one of the things that they pointed out early on is they said that Kurt Flynn, back in that little campfire scene with Owen, was originally supposed to do a Yoda impersonation. And that was one of the decisions they made in hiring him to play the part. And they said that in the casting, they heard a lot of people do some really terrible Yoda impersonations. And then, of course, the finale of second season and Straight On Till Morning has David H. Goodman, he's a co-producer and writer, and Colin O'Donoghue doing the commentary on that.
Ah, cool.
So some awesome commentary. I'm looking forward to rewatching these episodes with their commentary and getting some cool behind the scenes on that. And I've got a voicemail from Aaron J in just a couple minutes that gives some more light on some of the things and review of some of the commentaries. But one other thing, if you haven't purchased yet, there's a bonus disc out there if you buy the Blu-rays from Best Buy.
That's weird.
Yeah. It's a little, I don't like it when places do that, but there's a bonus disc, and unfortunately the coupon that you could print out from, I think it's ABC TV on DVD coupon.com or something like that, but it is ABC official. Okay. So it's not just some shady thing. But you could have printed a coupon, taken it into the store, and bought it for just a couple dollars cheaper than the Amazon.com price, which has since gone up, actually. Oh. But you can check that out at oncepodcast.com/season2 if you want to purchase from Amazon.
You're making me sad.
But the bonus disc is a Best Buy exclusive. It has 3 deleted scenes and a special 15-minute feature. So someone who did purchase the Blu-ray bonus disc from Best Buy there was Erin J, and she sent in this little review for us. It's a few minutes here of her review of the Blu-ray and especially letting us know what's on the bonus disc.
Hey guys, it's Erin J, and I wanted to send in feedback about the Once Upon a Time Blu-rays. If you went to Best Buy, they were actually cheaper, and you got a bonus disc. I get them home. The first thing I do is put it in the Blu-ray player with my flat screen TV, which is not the TV that I watch the show on because it does not have cable. So when I watch the show, I watch it on this really old TV. So then to see the Blu-rays, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful show. The quality was so good. Everything is just so much more beautiful when you watch it on Blu-ray on a flat screen TV. So I was really impressed with that. But the first thing I watched every episode that had a commentary with the commentary. I really wanted to do that. Last year I really enjoyed the episode commentaries. This year I was a little bit disappointed. I really enjoyed Josh and Ginny's commentary on the episode Broken, and I really enjoyed Jane Espenson's commentary on The Miller's Daughter. They were really relevant to the episode that we were watching. I found that some of the other commentaries, specifically those with Adam and Eddie, kind of just reiterated a lot of information that anybody who's watched any interviews with them or any panels with them already knew, and that wasn't really specific to the episode. So I was partly disappointed with that, and I was actually really disappointed that Jennifer Morrison didn't do a commentary, but I'm an ugly duckling, so I guess that makes sense.
Or is she an ugly duckling?
A dunkling?
Last year, her commentary on the episode A World Without Magic was really good, A Land Without Magic, and this year then there wasn't one, so I was disappointed in that. But quality's good, price is good, commentaries were okay. these other special features that I've seen so far are great. I thought the bloopers could have been longer because they're just so hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
The deleted scenes, I really love deleted scenes. That's one of the main reasons why I love buying DVDs is for the deleted scenes, because it's all this information that the actors think that we know because they remember filming it, and then they realize, and they don't necessarily realize that it's not in the actual episode that we've seen. So I really enjoyed those. But more than the deleted scenes on the Blu-rays, which were great, there were 3 bonus deleted scenes on the Best Buy special feature disc that I was so excited to see. So, we find out what happened to Spencer, which is not on the Blu-rays and was not in any of the episodes.
Now, just to remind you, Spencer is the DA, or King George. Because, and maybe no one needed to be reminded of that, but it's been so long since I watched all of the episodes that I had to think, Spencer, why do we even care about Spencer? So he's the DA. Last we saw of him, remember, was when he burned the hat in the end of Child of the Moon.
So if you got the Best Buy disc, you find out kind of what happened to Spencer. It's from the episode Tiny, and it just shows Snow and Charming confronting Spencer in Storybrooke. So Mary, Margaret, and David confronting Spencer, who has been locked in the mines. He's been chained to the wall in the mines. That's where David put him after the Child of the Moon. And basically, I just really love, there's a line that Spencer says to Charming that's really relevant for kind of how the rest of the season played out. He says to him, "You have darkness in you too, Prince Charming." Which, considering what happened with Snow and her heart and everything, I thought was really relevant. But I was so excited to find out what happened to Spencer, because at Paley Fest, Adam and Eddie said that they would be really disappointed if we didn't hear what happened to Spencer, and then we didn't. So I was really disappointed, and now we finally do. There's also a really heartbreaking scene from the episode The Crocodile, where Rumpelstiltskin comes home from his confrontation on the boat with Hook and Mila, and he has to tell Bay that Mila's dead and is never coming back. And it's a really, really sad scene. And then there's kind of another okay scene from Welcome to Storybrooke. It's kind of a follow-up to after the well scene when Henry's trying to blow out magic, and Emma's just trying to make Henry feel better, and Henry just says everything's going to keep getting worse as long as magic is here. So it kind of, that segued really well into the season finale. And also included on the Best Buy Special Features disc is a costume kind of production design special feature. It's 15 minutes long, and it is the production manager and Eduardo Castroff, I think is his name, the costume designer. They are both featured in it, and they're talking about costumes and how they make, what their inspiration is for the look specifically in Fairy Tale Land, and for like how they did Regina's castle versus Snow's castle, and how they pick different outfits and how the actors helped them and stuff. It was actually really good. It's such a girl thing to say. I really loved the one about the clothes, but the man who does the costumes for Once Upon a Time is amazing. I'm so glad he won. Like, he won an award this year for it. But you can just tell by listening to him in the interview, like, how much he loves his job, and how inspiring he is with how he makes the clothing, and how much time he puts into it. So I really enjoyed that special feature too. So I'm very happy that I went to Best Buy and bought that disc. I got that disc with it. And yeah, I'm super disappointed that there are no hidden Easter eggs on the Blu-rays. That makes me very sad, especially since they did it last year. So I kind of feel like once a network does something like that, they should be consistent for the rest of the series. But that's just my personal opinion. So kind of disappointed with the Blu-rays a little bit. Not so much with the special features on the disc and on the special Best Buy disc. So that is my feedback about Once Upon a Time Season 2 on Blu-ray.
Thank you very much, Aaron J.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. Some great insight. And I think I said that the disc was a Blu-ray disc, but it's also available if you buy the DVD from Best Buy. So either buy the DVD or the Blu-ray edition from Best Buy, and you get that extra disc. But it's very likely those extra features will end up falling off a truck somewhere and landing inside of YouTube. So you might be able to find those even if you don't get those discs, or you already got your discs. Now, if you have not purchased Once Upon a Time second season yet, then please go to oncepodcast.com/season2 to purchase from Amazon. And if you purchase from there, then that does help support us because we get a couple dollars from that if you purchase through our link. And if you purchase anything else while you're there on Amazon, that also contributes to one's podcast as well. So that was really cool to hear some of that. And some of that stuff, some of those deleted scenes, I think would have been better to see than some of the ones we saw.
Sounds like it.
I've always wondered, what did that look like for Rumpelstiltskin to go back to Yunbei and tell him Mila was gone, Mila was dead, whatever that he told him, what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these other things, like what happened to Spencer, and the whole thing at the well would have been great to see as well.
Pretty much. Sometimes important things end up getting cut out.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are interested in the subtitles that are available for different languages, and the back of the Blu-ray case, this is a little confusing because the back of the Blu-ray case says that the subtitles are in English, SDH, Spanish, and French, and that applies to feature content only. But when I looked at the discs, the premiere of second season actually has more subtitles than all the other episodes, but most of the episodes have English, Thai, Chinese, Spanish, Portuguese, and French.
Wow.
I don't know why they're not listed on the case. Maybe that's a region thing.
I wonder what the quality is. That's a lot of languages.
Yeah. I mean, this is Disney. That's paying to have this done.
It's true.
So if you are one that needs those subtitles in different languages, then it sounds like, or it looks like, as far as I could tell, those languages were on every feature. I wasn't able to check all of the special features for them, but of all of the features, it did seem like those subtitles were there. So if you speak one of these languages and you would use these subtitles, then please let us know. Are these on everything? How good they are and all of that. You can comment on the show notes over at oncepodcast.com/105. So in all, Jeremy, Jenny, what did you guys think of the Blu-rays? And all the special features and everything that we've seen so far?
It was good. It wasn't, earth-shattering, perhaps, but it was good. It was a nice set.
Mm-hmm. I like the behind-the-scenes approach to things and the tiny little bits of stuff that we get here and there that gives us just a little bit more of the puzzle. Jenny, what did you think?
It was interesting. It was fun to watch. I liked all the special features. It's great.
Yeah, so please check it out at oncepodcast.com/season2 to order that from Amazon, and I know you'll love it. DVD and Blu-ray, and the prices will change frequently on Amazon. They'll go up and down. You can also, of course, get them from Hulu. Netflix will have Once Upon a Time at the end of August. We'll receive the full second season of Once Upon a Time. And I know other countries are delayed in their airings, and as well as when the DVDs and such will be available in those other countries. But I do like one last comment here on the Blu-ray is you get this lenticular cover, which is the look at it two different directions and you see two different things. And I showed this in the unboxing video. You see Emma with the purple smoke and holding the sword. Emma's holding the sword, not the purple smoke. And then the other direction, you see the Jolly Roger, Captain Hook's ship, with the Charming's castle in the background.
Did you just try to swipe the box?
No.
With the Charming's castle in the background. That's
With
kind of
your
weird.
finger.
Yeah.
What's funny about this is you see Emma with the sword and the purple smoke, and obviously that's the sort of the main image for season 2, but it feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
Since that's sort of what we knew of season 2, and the last thing we saw was purple smoke.
Magic is coming. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm eager to...
Now it's like, who knows what is coming?
We know we're going to Neverland.
Yeah.
We'll meet Peter Pan and other
our
things.
Our cast is coming to Neverland. Like purple smoke descending on something.
So I am really looking forward to rewatching many of these episodes, especially the ones with the commentaries. We'll have a review of the soundtrack very soon as well, because the second season soundtrack just came out. And I'll make this link work. So by the time you downloaded this episode of Once Podcast, this link will work. But if you want to order the soundtrack from Amazon, you can go to oncepodcast.com/soundtrack2. And coming up, we will be starting a new podcast for the TV show Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. That will be a separate podcast that you'll need to subscribe to separately. Because we know not all of the Once Upon a Time watchers will watch Wonderland and vice versa. So we'll be starting a separate podcast for that. That will launch pretty soon over at oncepodcast.com on the same website, same forums, all of that. So you'll still be able to see all of that on the same website, but you subscribe to it through a different feed in iTunes or whatever your favorite podcast program is. And also, Jenny and I will be doing a short form podcast about Once Upon a Time in Wonderland for the TV Talk Network. And this will be very similar to our initial reactions. We're not planning to do initial reactions in our Wonderland podcast, just for sake of time and production and all of that. But we will be doing these much shorter, about 15-minute podcast episodes for the TV Talk Network. And you'll be able to find that soon over at tvtalk.com, I believe is the address. But that'll be launching when Once Upon a Time in Wonderland launches as well. And I think that's about it for announcements. Oh, hey, by the way, please rate us and review us on iTunes if you haven't already. Go to oncepodcast.com/iTunes to write a review for us. We really appreciate those reviews. And recently, Pan18 and Ashley the Dragon wrote reviews for us on iTunes. We really appreciate that. Please go there, leave an honest review about Once Podcast. And if you've already written a review for us, then go mark some of the other reviews as helpful, especially the more recent ones, because I know the older ones are the ones that are currently on the front page in iTunes if you find our podcast there. But we'd really appreciate those newer reviews being marked as helpful. And we love the new reviews. It really encourages us, and it helps other people find the podcast as well. So you can get to that at oncepodcast.com/iTunes. Please make sure that you follow the podcast on iTunes as well as on Twitter. We're on Twitter at oncepodcast. You can join our forums at oncepodcast.com/forums. Get the show notes for this episode of the podcast and let us know what you thought at oncepodcast.com/105. And send us your feedback on theories, and especially as Once Upon a Time returns, when you start having your theories and things that you notice about episodes. Email feedback at oncepodcast.com, call 903-231-2221, or go to oncepodcast.com on your computer or iOS device, and you can send a message that way. That's a lot of talking that I just did.
Yes, it is. But it's okay. You do it so well.
And you can follow each of us on Twitter. I'm Daniel J. Lewis, and you can follow me on Twitter at The Ramen Noodle.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin. You can follow me on Twitter at Phlegon. That's PHLEGON.
And I'm Jenny, and you can follow me at twitter.com/JennySnook.
So until next time, have a happy ever after, and thanks for listening. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle Mix Network. Find more of our podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at noodle.mx. Big thanks to our donors for this episode of Once Podcast. If you'd like to donate to Once Podcast and be like co-producers with us, then please go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor. Something really cool with the Noodle Mix Network that I want to let you know about is if you're watching Once Upon a Time, you might also like the TV show, or maybe you're also already watching the TV show Under the Dome. And we just brought a podcast into the network hosted by Wayne and Dan. You can subscribe over at underthedomeradio.com. They've got a great Under the Dome podcast over there. And if you like the TV show Under the Dome, I think you'll really like the Under the Dome radio podcast. So get that over at underthedome.com and welcome them to the Noodle Mix Network. It's great to have them as part of the network, and I really like their approach to the TV show, and they make it really interesting and dig into some of the cool stuff that's going on with the TV show. So check that out at underthedomeradio.com. Okay. I'm going to stick that in a little bit earlier in the episode. Jeremy.
What?
Can't help it.
What?
Do keep in mind that the chat room is about 30 seconds delayed. So they're thinking you're talking about us. The podcast is good.
Oh. That's great. Like, hey everybody, aren't we awesome? I didn't know what the sound was for that video. Oh, the air conditioner. I love the air conditioner. Hey Daniel. When we speak, there's some there's some static behind our voices.
When just you speak or when I speak?
Any of us. Mainly you, possibly. So I think you thought it might be that.
Yeah, I know it's my computer.
Can we pack it
really
in ice
loud.
so that it doesn't run as fast?
It's the live streaming. I just can't get around that. As long as I'm live streaming video, unless I sit like back here, which actually, you know, if I start doing, would this feel awkward to you guys if I
It would feel
podcasted
very
like
awkward.
this?
But you know what you could do also is
And now my head's cut off, probably.
maybe at some point you could outsource the streaming to a different machine of some sort.
The problem is I don't have another machine that can do it.
Right.
My Mac Mini is too old to run the
Oh.
streaming software.
Right. I didn't know if you still had that.
Yeah, I do. I would consider getting a new Mac Mini, newer, that's just powerful enough to run the streaming and then run everything through that. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I've also thought about, I've been thinking about some things like, well, could I maybe put my computer somewhere else and use my iPad instead
Right.
while
right.
we're podcasting? That would be difficult, maybe doable.
Might be a good learning workflow. Learn the limits of what you can and can't do with your iPad.
I mean, I can play the sound effects through my iPad. They
Right.
can control my computer. I could control my computer from my iPad. All of that. I don't know if we're going to stick with YouTube streaming, though. I know that Obi's Girl said it's higher quality. That's just because I think I have the quality settings higher
Oh.
on this. But then again,
Which might be causing some of the times when other people are dropping off.
yeah.
If they don't have good enough bandwidth for the high quality, that might be causing an issue. I don't know if it steps it down, but
Well, I don't like that the delay is so long
right.
with YouTube Live. That's
Yeah.
why we've been using YouTube. I think Aaron asked that question earlier. I've been using YouTube Live because it's free and we can. But I don't know if I want to continue using it. No commercials. That's the nice thing.
True. And it doesn't autoplay,
Yeah.
which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
Well, on the live page, that's a bad thing. If we were anywhere other than the live page,
right.
it's like when you go to a YouTube page for a video, you expect to see a video on that page, so it makes sense for that video to
Right.
autoplay. So I'm probably going to switch back to live stream. And I also don't like the way that YouTube does embeds. I have to change the embed every time
Oh.
because I'm creating a separate YouTube event. So that means separate
goodness.
embed code.
That's
And
kind of
yeah, so I can't just leave something in there and it always be the same, which that can be a real pain in other ways too.
right. So that truck that you were talking about accidentally dropping some stuff on YouTube
Yeah.
did.
Did it drop those special features?
It did. Very clearly labeled. Whoa, hi. Such a way with communication.
All right. Yeah, it is hot down here.
Getting better. We're right under the vent.
I did turn the air conditioner even colder before you got here to try and cool it down for the ramen
I
noodle.
noticed. At first I was like, gosh, it's going to be so much better. But then the second it turned off, it was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Quite hot.
Well,
it's like a car.
Put your hand in front of the monitor.
Son of a gun.
That's hot. I didn't
That's
realize
hot.
how much heat was
It's
coming
hot.
off my monitor. Yeah, I'm actually over here sweating.
And the computers. Probably not the lights.
Our little
No.
things are dancing.
Irma Gersh. Here, let me help.
What happened here?
This day.
Oh, I also can't do like pre-show and post-show easily on YouTube. If I want the video to stay on YouTube, and what I think I really might do.
So what happens on YouTube does not stay on YouTube.
No, it does stay on YouTube.
Oh.
That's the problem.
Oh.
What happens on YouTube stays on YouTube, unless I go back and edit what's on YouTube. Which,
Oh.
like right now, if people watch this video on YouTube,
They get the time when we
they'll
paused
see all
and
of this. Yeah.
Or, oh, this part.
Hmm.
That's terrifying.
Because if I stop the YouTube recording, it stops the live
How
stream.
do we
as well.
find that stuff?
It's most of the videos are private, so you
Oh,
can only
okay.
see them. This one I did make public, but I might switch it back to private.
Public.
All right, but anyway,
I don't know what that means.
good night, everybody.
Well,
We're gonna head out,
good night.
and this episode will be available for download tomorrow, sometime in the morning. If anyone who's listening right now would like to help with show notes, that would be fantastic. I could give you an MP3 almost right away if you want to help with show notes, but I should have asked someone while we were doing this live. But I think the show notes would be pretty simple. But if anyone is interested, please email me.
Email me. Don't email me. Scroll buttons.
All right. So, good night, everyone.
Waiting for the lag.
Thank you to joining. Yes, I
Good
am.
night.